The voice of sharing durian ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
And of course, you are back with us on our daily ASEAN Daily.
Yeah, and we will bring you news from all over Southeast Asia and as well as some important news from the Asia Pacific as well. And you can listen to us every day at 8 o'clock and we talk about various issues that are happening all over the region in all the 10 countries.
That's right, Gowri. So, talking about 10 countries, we should start with Malaysia. So, a lot of the people, Malaysian public, have been such in furiousness regarding on this particular bill that we have been discussing it quite some time on the tabling of the anti-terrorism bill, or in short, it's called POTA. And apparently, it was agreed unanimously by majority of the member of parliament, consists of from Pakatan as well as Barisan Nasional, to pass the POTA bill.
That's right. But it seems that at the same time there were at least 20 opposition MPs who were absent during the passing of the bill, and this has also come into the question by a lot of prominent people, a lot of Malaysians as well, as to why were they absent during the tabling of such an important bill. Like, this bill could actually change the whole political landscape of Malaysia.
I want to ask you, like, do you really know what member of parliament's role is personally?
Maybe not too clear.
Yeah, but for ordinary Malaysians, I think the reason why we have representative of member of parliament, because we put our trust in them to vote for any bills or to vote against any bills that is not good for the rakyat. So for them to be absent is definitely not something that Malaysians should take lightly, because I mean, at least to me, I have nothing against the prevention of terrorism bill, but I think member of parliament should make it more clearer on why they vote against it, or they don't vote, or they vote for it. But to be completely absent, that's something that shouldn't happen at all.
And yeah, like you said, we actually put our trust in all these MPs to rely on them to speak up on behalf of us, of course, because people themselves cannot go into the parliament, which is why we have the elections and we elect someone that we think we can trust and someone who can probably do the job when they get in there. And I guess what you were saying earlier, the people may not even really know that for the opposition MPs to be absent is actually something that's unacceptable. They probably think that it's a choice whether they want to be there or not.
So who are the 20, naughty students that didn't go to the parliament?
Just some really bad people. Talking about the prevention of terrorism bill itself, actually, apart from you and a few other people, I don't really know anyone who's okay with it.
Maybe because we have been reporting a lot of terrorist activities around Southeast Asia. For example, Marwan infamously teach how to do bombing among people in Mindanao. And he's the mastermind in a lot of cases regarding on terrorism in Mindanao as well. And also, I think a lot of people might not be exposed, but there's a lot of pockets of terrorist activities happening all over Southeast Asia, especially Malaysia, and some of the masterminds, unfortunately, are Malaysians themselves. They might not do it on the Malaysian soil, but they are pretty dangerous when it comes to putting the lives of other people in danger in other countries. And a lot of Malaysians are in Syria and Iraq.
That's right, and of course terrorist threat is something that we want to take very seriously, but I don't know if it's because of ignorance or because of the way the media has been portraying it, but a lot of them seem to think that this is just another ISA that will be used, that was just passed to put everyone else in trouble, and so they can just arrest whoever they want whenever they want according to their convenience.
But to be fair, Gowri, to be fair, I mean, for the POTA Act, it has a specific clause where it exclude people who, it exclude intention where you are an opposition leader, or you're for any other political reason, but it has to be very specific, which is it's about terrorism, Prevention of Terrorism Act. I mean, maybe on paper it looks credible, it looks feasible, but I think people who vote against the POTA Act have their point, like it can be misused, and and a lot of Malaysian laws have been misused many times. For example, the ISA was meant to curb communist activities in the past, but it has been used to curb political activities that are against the government's wishes.
And not only political activities, even when before the Sedition Act was used that much, even anyone who pretty much said anything or questioned anything, you can just get arrested under the ISA, and that was something that was also very feared by everyone back then. So that's probably why, like you were saying, maybe on paper alone it looks credible, it looks like this could possibly happen, but when it comes to really implementing it, it scares a lot of people that it could be used for the wrong reasons.
And on another news, I think from the government side, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin did mention that it's not the same between POTA and ISA. This is not ISA 2.0. This is definitely meant to curb terrorist activities in this country. And I think terrorism is a real threat in Southeast Asia. In fact, discussion on a ministerial level among ASEAN ministry regarding on combating terrorism is also part of the conversation in ASEAN Summit. So we don't I don't think we should take it lightly, but at the same time, I think some of the valid points being thrown out by a lot of the opposition leaders are valid as well. So should be taken into consideration when POTA is being implemented.
But at the same time, the reaction of Malaysians, I think, should also be taken into consideration, that probably they are not as aware about it, or they don't really know what it stands for. They probably just read it in a newspaper or some article online that says it's bad, and then they just freak out, like, oh my god, is this going to be another ISA? Like, they're just going to keep arresting people, but they don't really know the objective of POTA itself. And
maybe we should do like an infographic just to give a balance on the real the reality of POTA. It can be a real threat to ordinary civilians, or it can be a good prevention bill for those who are definitely terrorizing society. So I think having a clearer picture how this will lead to the future of Malaysia would be more enlightening, rather than making false accusation or having fears that are
not justified.
Not justified, definitely. But one thing I do applaud the POTA bill was actually not just another bill that was debated in a very rushed way. It was actually a 12-hour debate over POTA bill when it was passed at 2:30 in the morning. Can you imagine being a member of parliament, debating it until 2:30 in the morning?
It is crazy. Well, it shows that it was definitely not easy for them. They probably anticipated the reaction from the people as well, that this is not going to be easy, and they had to weigh a lot of the pros and cons of the bill, which is why it probably took that long. So maybe Malaysians should stop freaking out and read more about the POTA and find out what it really is, or who is really targeted for.
But I do applaud Malaysian opposition that actually take the initiative to debate about this. Taking 12 hours to debate about this means that some opposition leaders or some member of parliament, regardless is BN or Pakatan, are really concerned about this, and they really want to know how it would impact society. And I think that's great. And I think it's great that projects like SINA project, if I'm not mistaken, they highlighted those who absent during the debate round itself, and it shows that it shows that, if you really want to elect a member of parliament, not because he is a popular person or she is a popular person, but because he or she is doing their job, which is being a member of parliament.
Like you said, it could be 2:30 a.m., but hey, we voted for you, and go there and fight for us.
Yeah. So, on the other hand, just to give a bit of a mention on what is happening right now in Singapore. So, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong announces new minister, series of cabinet changes. Yesterday, we mentioned a lot about how the survey in a public survey in Indonesia is actually suggesting Jokowi's administration to do a reshuffling of cabinet, but now we are seeing that Singapore is taking the initiative to do that, which is a great thing.
And it seems a bit like a domino effect as well, if I may use that term. I mean, it's happening in Philippines, it's happening in Indonesia, it's happening in Singapore now, and even in Malaysia there have been calls for either the prime minister to step down or to reshuffle his cabinet and replace ministers because of the amount of corruption problem that we're facing in the country. Could this actually be something that's catching on all over Southeast Asia?
It could be. And one thing that I felt I would applaud Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong's administration would be, he said that the changes in the cabinet is part of the continuing leadership renewal, and I think it's healthy for Prime Minister or President to reshuffle their cabinet every once in a while if their ministers are not doing their job, because at the same time you want to have internal check and balances as well.
But how often can they actually do that when it comes to reshuffling the cabinet?
Every time they feel the urge to do it. No, just kidding.
That's a good one, because I fell for that.
Well, I'm not really sure, but I guess I guess every president have 5 years of being in office. So I guess every time 2 or 3 years, or even every year, if they feel that they need to reshuffle their cabinet, they have the right to do so. And for Malaysia, I think Najib should have we should have a public survey over Najib's administration. Maybe he can reshuffle some of his cabinet members so that he can be more efficient and getting the right people to do the job.
I think you're absolutely right. With all the other surveys that's come out, it will be interesting to see where the Malaysians stand as well on the current administration under the ruling government, to see whether the people really do have faith, or do they actually want to see some changes in what's happening.
To me, a strong prime minister means that a prime minister that has a strong team, because you cannot work in silos. Even though you are the leader of the pack, you have to have a strong team.
And also when it comes to the whole administration itself, of course we have our prime minister and he has his own team, but like you mentioned, it's all about the teamwork, and it could just be a couple of people who are not doing their job or not performing up to the expectation of the people, and that just puts the whole government in a bad picture.
That's true.
And that affects the whole impression as well. And they probably just want the whole party maybe to just get out and get someone else in. But probably a reshuffling is an alternative that we don't really think about, because it's always about just changing the whole thing and doing away with this and come up with something new.
Well, I totally agree with you, and because of that, we are going to take one short break, and when we return, we will have more discussion on ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
And of course, you are with us again on our ASEAN Daily. So we were off air, we were discussing on our own opinion regarding on the POTA, or the Prevention of Terrorism Act. And it's quite interesting how how POTA would really affect Malaysian society, either in a positive way or in a negative way. But I think a lot of the points being made by a lot of people do make sense, either by the government, civil society, or even the public. But, you know, on the larger scale, I mean, threats of terrorism is definitely real, but not just terrorism, but in fact, threats on, I would say, on security is one of the real issue. I think it will be part of the main discussion in the ASEAN summit. And what I'm talking right now is about the issue regarding on the threats of the South China Sea by China, of course.
That's right. And it seems that we have China in the picture already, of course, having their disputes with Philippines, with Vietnam. But according to this one guy, he said that, I'll tell you who he is in a bit. He actually said that Japan could be in the picture as well. And they could be increasing their naval and also air presence in the South China Sea.
So the thing about this piece of news that I thought was interesting is because there's a suggestion that maybe you should have an ASEAN-led maritime force.
But is that gonna happen or not?
Not so fast, I guess.
So the guy that I was talking about was actually Vice Admiral Robert Thomas, who is the commander of the U.S. 7th Fleet. And this happened during a panel discussion on how to address the spread of piracy to southwestern reaches of the South China Sea, where it seems that there's a possibility for Japan to come into the picture and to expand their presence. And it seems that if that happens, U.S. will actually extend their support to Japan. So there's a very conflicting statement here from him as well, where he is giving a talk on how to prevent all this thing, but at the same time, he's saying that Japan could actually come into the picture. And this causes more
tension,
I would say, tension, ambiguity in the region, because as it is, this issue is still not yet resolved.
But do you know what makes me feel a bit problematic on this statement is because it's being said by someone from the US. And I think we always have to be very careful when statement made by the US or China, because at the end of the day, it's a geopolitical, I would say, what do you call that? Force against each other between the US and China. So on the larger scale, I think Southeast Asia needs to be very, very careful. We need to know what is our limitation and where we stand. And for Southeast Asian, definitely we do not want to make war with anyone, including our neighbor China or even the US, which are strong trade partners in this region. The same thing with Japan. Japan is a strong trade partner in this region. They have been investing a lot in terms of infrastructure as well, aids. So I think for Southeast Asia, when we talk about South China Sea, we have to be very, very careful and not taking sides so easily.
And another thing that I would also like to bring up is like I mentioned earlier, the more tension, the more ambiguity that this is causing. Of course, this is being mentioned by somebody from the US, but it still has some sort of an impact on the way people are viewing this problem. And with all this that's being said, it seems that the fear towards China is also increasing, because of course they are a huge country, and we always call them the big brother of Southeast Asia, and we always try our best not to offend them, because of course they play a huge role in Southeast Asia.
Or anchovies, I always call myself.
Next to this giant whale, blue whale that's above us.
At least whale are kind.
Right.
Yeah. I would call them sharks.
You are going to jail. So it
using
seems
POTA?
Probably.
No, just kidding about it. Just kidding. But I totally in the same page as you. So I mean, on the same page as you in terms of the way we should handle South China Sea.
And could this be the reason why the countries prefer to sort things I would say, by themselves instead of coming out with a regional solution. Because of course I think we have reported that China was willing to work with ASEAN itself, but then there was a problem because one of their officials was a Vietnamese, and they thought, okay, this is going to be biased. We don't want to deal with this, so they preferred just dealing with one or two countries as opposed to ASEAN as a whole. But and now in this case, it increased the ambiguity even further. That it seems like would China want to actually solve this, or is ASEAN actually capable, like what you mentioned, coming up with?
Let's wait for the next ASEAN summit to get the answer. On the other hand, do you know anything about Islamic banking, Gowri?
I was hoping you could enlighten me about it.
I'm as clueless as you, but apparently Malaysia is launching world's first Islamic ASEAN exchange traded fund, or ETF. Well, is being en route to for listing on the Bursa Malaysia next month on May 7.
And the chairman, who is Wan Kamaruzaman, said that the fund offered a very unique proposition because it actually provides opportunity for investors to have an investment exposure into all the potential in the growth of Southeast Asia.
Yes, and the fund comes with relatively low fees, transparency, and liquidity via the stock-like trading capabilities. So, I am as clueless as you.
That's right. Well, we can always talk to someone who is probably well versed in Islamic what is the exchange trade and
talk to someone from the World Islamic Economic
probably
Forum.
And then we will of course enlighten our listeners about it as well.
So it's part of the immediate diversification of a basket of course, Sharia compliant dividends yielding stocks in 5 leading countries within Southeast Asia, of course, namely Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines, which have a significant number of Muslims population. So on the other hand, Gowri,
yes,
do you know that you need more skills to thrive in ASEAN? Like seriously?
Especially if I live in Cambodia. Yes.
This is based on the perspective of an analyst saying that youth need more skills to thrive in the new ASEAN economic community. And as ASEAN heads towards economic integration, the younger generation have bigger pressure, of course, to be more competitive. And being more competitive means that you need more skills. You need to be more out there, and of course, you have to you need to be more exposed to region-wide opportunities. So there's a lot of things that young people need to do nowadays.
Are we still young people? Or are we considered in the older, slightly older adults?
Well, you are definitely young people. I don't know how you define young people, but I think this is definitely related to jobs opportunity. As we all know that in Southeast Asia, unemployment rate among youth is still quite high, and I guess this is the burden of the younger generation, as well as the government the governments in each country to somehow address this issue.
And of course, the issue here is also with Cambodia because it is one of the least developed countries in ASEAN, and a lot of the people there are saying that for the youth in Cambodia to actually step up their game and to compete with other countries, youth from probably Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, they need to start working on their skills because eventually that's what's going to push you forward. It seems that they are focusing on engineering, accounting, medicine, science, English, other languages as well, but they are still not up to par, up to the standard that they want to achieve. So the Cambodian youth have to work twice as hard because they are going to be the future of Cambodia as well. And for Cambodia to be able to compete in the future, it goes down to the youth in the country.
Yep, but you want people to be more skilled, but you also need to provide more space for young people to voice out their concern. And talking about Cambodia again, apparently the cost of business in Cambodia compared to China is perhaps lesser or higher.
So this is, of course, concerning the relationship between China and Cambodia, and it seems that, like we were just mentioning, Cambodia is one of the slowest growing nation in ASEAN, but because they are so close to our big scary brother China, they actually have
Don't call China like that. They are just like pandas, adorable, right?
Oh, really? So yeah, so that has actually increased their prospects because China has been investing a lot in Cambodia because of the low cost.
Mm-hmm. And also the number of tourists in Cambodia, the number of Chinese tourists from traveling to Cambodia has been increased from 600,000 expected to visit the country of Cambodia in 2015 up from the 460,000 last year, but that and some are drawn by Chinese invested casinos and other cultural sites. So Cambodia are doing great, I guess, but still very much a backward nation, so a lot of things needs to be put in place. But one thing for sure, Cambodia's relationship with China is really, really close, and a lot of the investment are coming from China. And because of that, Cambodia has a very pro-China foreign policy, which is we can see it in a lot of its stance in ASEAN itself, and one of it will be the South China Sea.
And it seems China is also taking very good care of Cambodia. Of course, it's a mutual benefit that they are getting here, but at the same time, to see China investing a lot, coming in, even with their tourists, with a lot of this manufacturing, production, because it's cheaper in Cambodia in terms of production costs. And this is working out very well for Cambodia, and maybe in a few years' time they will not be the slowest country in I feel bad for saying that, but yeah, hopefully they will pick up and be on par with other countries.
Don't come to Cambodia, they will probably like, what? You think you're so fast? Well, talking about fast, apparently over 10,000 Myanmar migrants are seeking work in Thailand. You see, economic reason is always the main core purpose of people migrating from one country to another. Of course, another reason would be political threats. But majority of the time, when people migrate to another country, it's always because they want to seek for a better living standard or better work opportunity, and it seems like Thailand has more work opportunity for Myanmar migrant workers.
And this also, I think, shows and proves again and again that how important labor rights are, because earlier you were also telling me about the AEC and their protection on skilled workers and how important that is, because we see a lot of people not only from Myanmar going to Thailand, but of course from Indonesia to Malaysia, Malaysia to Singapore. It's pretty much happening everywhere in the region, and it's great that Thailand has also worked out a memorandum of understanding with the other countries to protect these migrant workers. But I must also say that it's actually shocking me that all these Myanmar workers are going to Thailand, provided all the trafficking news that we've reported.
Because a lot of them have been to Malaysia. They're like, oh, we want to go to Thailand as well, not just
Probably.
Malaysia.
Thailand's closer anyway.
But I think my main concern is with AEC, they are only going to look at the protection for skilled workers. But what about a minimum requirement protection for unskilled workers? Because they risk their life traveling all the way to Thailand, but they are not being protected under the law, the same law with the national law of Thailand or even Malaysia, if you are looking at the larger context of Southeast Asia. So I think one of the main challenges for AEC is to expand the definition of workers to include skilled and unskilled.
And yeah, going back to that, I just want to add that Cambodia and Myanmar is actually working in Thailand to increase the protection of these workers who will be going there, and they are also working on verifying the nationality process, which is another important thing, I think, because most of the times their passport or whatever gets confiscated, and it's very makes it very difficult for them to move around. So just want to applaud them for working together and coming up with that process.
Yay! So another news about Thailand is how Bangkok's glitzy malls are eating up Laos' most valuable resources. So the malls are a
Yes.
threat.
Exactly, and Thailand is probably being a bit naughty here. But well, it's a bit tricky because they're all pretty much sharing the same region, especially when it comes to energy, electricity, and they have to rely on the dam that's being built. And when it comes to the dam building, it's always Laos that's affected the most because of their economic activities, that they rely a lot on fishery. And it seems that this building of this mall, especially Bangkok's Siam Paragon shopping complex, uses twice the electricity of the 250,000 citizens living in Thailand. And this changes the entire environmental landscape in Laos, especially in terms of fish stocks and also the disruption in their food chain.
We interviewed a lot of activists before on the Dong Sahong dam that is currently undergoing in being built in Laos. But the thing is, Laos has somehow pledged itself to be the energy hub of Southeast Asia. So what we are seeing right now is more and more middle class people in Southeast Asia, more consumption of energy throughout Southeast Asia. I don't want to just pinpoint to Thailand, but I think throughout Southeast Asia, people are become more mall obsessed. I mean, you just go to Kuala Lumpur and the Klang Valley, more and more malls are being built, and even now there's some master plan of malls being built in outside of the Klang Valley area, and what you are seeing right now is Southeast Asian being a very I would say energy greedy region, that we need to somehow address this, because at the end of the day, countries like Laos, the local community there will suffer because of what we indirectly contribute to its energy consumption.
Exactly. I think over 1 million of them, even in Cambodia, rely on all this food supply from the fishery industry for food, and this causes disruption not only environmentally but even in terms of their basic rights such as food.
That's true. So before we end our show today, I just want to say, please come to the Philippines, because Aquino officially declares 2015 as Visit the Philippines year.
So if you're thinking of where to go for a vacation this year, you might want to try the Philippines and see what they have to offer over there.
So that's all from me today, Arlene.
And this is Gowri.
And of course, you can always follow us on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And also subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the daily podcasts. And we'll be back later at 9 o'clock for our next show.